welcome to Ultimate Survival Gear. Today, as you guys can see, I have another pair of boots from Bates. Another pair of Bates boots for review, and these are the very popular and much requested for review as well, Bates Ultralite Tactical Sport Side Zip Military Boots. Yes, now because these are advertised as military boots, alright, not hiking boots, not whatever, any kind of boots, military boots. Now you have to understand one thing. These boots are designed for our soldiers, our troops, people that are out there on the lines putting their lives in danger for our safety, for our freedoms. So for stuff like this, I am extra demanding whenever it comes to my reviews. Even though all my reviews are for Ultimate Survival Boots section, basically if this was a survival situation and something bad happened and you were surviving. Well, so it was a combat situation, tactical situation, you had to run, you had to climb, you had to fight, or even just walk for miles and miles until you get to the safety, right? And whenever it comes to the military stuff, obviously this is what the guys and girls that are serving our country are doing, right? So you want to make sure that you have a good boot that is comfortable, that is lightweight, that is easy to put on and take off, in case if you need to, if you're sleeping, for example, and you took your boots off, and all of a sudden in the middle of a night or in the middle of a day you wake up to something, right? You need to put them quickly on and then either fight or run or whatever, right? You get the point. So how do we make the judgment? We make judgment based on 8 different criteria. Let's begin. Let the review begin. Criteria number 1, comfort level. And in order to test the comfort level of all the boots and shoes that I review on this channel, I do a 3-mile run non-stop, and then a 5-mile walk right after the run, again non-stop, so 8 miles total, and then I continue wearing the boots for the rest of the day. Total wear time is about 8 hours, alright? And let me tell you guys, these are, out of all the Bates that I reviewed, and honestly I'm not a huge fan of the brand, but these are, whenever it comes to the comfort, are actually pretty good. And let's start from the factors that contribute to that comfort level. The factor number 1, of course, is the weight. And let's see, these are advertised, of course, as ultralight, so these better be really light, so, got high expectations here, high hopes. So this is size 10, and let's see exactly, 21.5. Okay, now if you work for Bates, let me tell you something. 21.5 is not exactly ultralight, alright? In fact, it's not even close to being ultralight. To give you kind of a reference numbers, if you want a light boot, you are looking for something under 20 ounce, okay? The more under 20 ounce it is, the lighter it gets. Now, with a label like ultralight, I would expect the boot to be somewhere in 12, maybe 13 ounce. That would be ultralight. And then the lightweight would be somewhere around 17, 18 ounce, all right? Anything below 20 ounce. Now, over 20 ounce, 21 and a half, 1.5 ounce over is not that much big of a deal. Overall, it is still a pretty good weight, I have to say, for a full-size boot with as bulky of an outsole as this one here, and obviously the whole construction giving you all the protection, which we'll talk about later. So it's not that bad. However, it is by no means ultralight, okay, guys? If you work for Bates, or if you know somebody working for Bates, this is not ultralight, all right? 21 and a half is not ultralight, okay? Not bad, but still not, it's still on the heavier side. So after about a mile and a half, I definitely felt that, the weight, the fatigue from the weight on your feet, you definitely gonna feel it. Alright, the next thing we're gonna talk about here is the flexibility of the bottom sole. This is another factor that either contributes or takes away from the comfort. And here, as you can see, despite the outsole being pretty bulky, I mean, it's look at it, it's, let's see, it's about, on the front it's about 1 inch, and at the back you got almost 1.5, a little bit more than that, and yet it is very, very flexible. So great job there, Bates. The flexibility is good. So for rocking, especially, right? If you're you know, doing your military training, you know what that is. This is actually pretty good because you can fast-paced walk, run properly, you know, without putting the stress on your heels, on your ankles, on your knees. So pretty good job there, Bates. Let's move on to the inner sole now. The inner sole here, I'm gonna try to open up to the best of my abilities to take out the inner sole. It's removable. It should be removable. And I'm gonna show it to you because it is actually pretty good. Let's see. Ta-da! Alright, check this out. So, as you can see, first thing you notice is it has a very distinctive heel bed, which is very nice. Arch support is pretty good too. Overall, there's decent amount of cushioning, and I like it a lot. But probably the best thing about this inner sole, besides the cushioning, besides the shapes, is the ventilation pores. This is very important. And guys, you know, if you've been out somewhere in the hot, somewhere in the field, all right, somewhere where it's hot, you guys will know what I'm talking about. Stand, okay? Stand. I know, and I am from the stand, so I know how it is over there, okay? So if you've been out there in the field, you know how important these freaking ventilation pores are, okay? You want that breathability, and this insole gives you that. So pretty good job, Bait, so far. Okay, moving on further, as you can see, there is another layer. I can't take it out because it's not removable, but it is another layer of cushioning that you have besides the inner sole, and it is actually very, very cushiony. It has a very nice jelly feeling, and that is very important whenever you have that extra thing. It gives you extra cushioning, very good if you're running. You get fatigued, and now you can no longer run properly, so now you start putting this, you know, more pressure on the heels, on the ankles, on the knees. That blue stuff right there, it protects you from getting too fatigued, from, you know, not proper running if you got tired. Very, very important. I know I'm not doing a good job explaining how important that is, but trust me, guys, this is a huge, huge plus. I've seen it in everything, tactical, hiking, whatever kind of boots you're looking at, work boots, that I like a lot. Now, some people might not like extra cushioning, but I don't know. I don't know what's the deal with those people. We're not gonna talk about them. Let's move on to the overall cushioning on the inside of the boot. Now, here, as you can see, the tongue is nice and padded, which is a huge plus. Great job there, Bates. That's a must. You know, sometimes I see the military boots with nothing. Not a big deal. It makes it more lightweight, but you wanna implement nice cushiony socks in order to deal with it. Here you already have all this cushioning, and then as we go inside of the toe box, that cushioning all of a sudden disappears, and you have that hard from the inside. So very important to get this boots in the right size, and I would still recommend wearing some cushiony socks with this boot. Okay, all right. So let's see. So we talked about the flexibility of the bottom sole, the weight, all the cushioning. Overall, on the comfort level, like I said, pretty good job, Bates. They did a pretty decent job. My only complaint here is that these are not freaking ultra light. Okay, Bates, please just don't do that. It's not anywhere near ultralight. Okay, let's move on to the criteria number 2 now. Proofing and protection. Yes, proofing and protection. So let's start from the proofing. These are not waterproof. Okay, now I know there are confusing comments out there, reviews that say, oh, I was wearing these and I never got a water inside. These are not waterproof by no means. Don't step into the puddle, and I'll explain to you why. First of all, and Bates could have easily made these at least water resistant, but they didn't, because check this out. Look at the gusseting of the tongue. The gusseting of the tongue is, well, let me tell you, that's freaking like 3 inches, barely. So this is as much of the waterproof as your running sneakers, because your running sneakers probably going to be about 3 inches tall, right? Which doesn't make any sense. Honestly, it does not make any sense, because you have 8 inches of the shaft and 3 inches of gusseting. Why? Why not make it at least 6 inches of gusseting, right? Especially considering that you have a side zip. I don't get it, don't ask me why, but yes, these are not waterproof. Don't get them wet because they do not have the ventilation. They don't have the vents, the drainage vents for the water to come out. So they will take some time to dry up. So don't get them wet. Now let's move on to the protection. Now protection wise, obviously this is not a composite toe, this is not a steel toe. Keep that in mind. This is pretty soft, so if you drop anything heavy on it, you're definitely gonna feel it. Obviously your ankles more or less are protected. Not that much though, this is pretty thin. Keep that in mind. This is actually very, very thin. Alright, keep that in mind. And the heel is the same as the toe. So overall, you do have protection, but not that much. Obviously, from the outsole, you do have some protection as well because it is so thick, so bulky. But again, overall in a boot, not that much as, for example, something with a composite toe, or at least with a harder rubber piece going over the toe as a cap, right? Rubber toe cap. Let's move on to the criteria number 3 now. Quality and the design features. Now, quality-wise, Bates is, everybody knows Bates. Especially if you're in service, if you're law enforcement or in the military, you know Bates. This is like one of the number one choices whenever it comes to guys that are in service, guys and girls. Besides that, if you click on the link in the description below, it's an Amazon link, you will see that there are over 7,000 reviews on this boot and almost 5 stars. So people do like it. People swear by these boots. They are time tested. So quality wise, you can't go wrong with Bates. They know what they're doing for the most part. Okay? Now, the design features, whenever I talk about the design features here, I talk about the lacing system. Besides the lacing system here, obviously, you have a zipper, which is very, very important, very nice to have. Makes the boot, especially a boot like this, honestly, I would never, if I was buying a military boot like this, I would never get it without the side zipper, because if you don't have the side zipper, it just takes forever to put this on and take it off. And being a military boot, being a tactical boot, combat boot, you know how important it is sometimes to have it where you can easily just put it on and go, alright? Very, very important. So side zip is a huge plus. It's a must-have in my opinion. Here you have a nice Velcro that covers up the zipper. Pretty good, okay, and the zipper itself is pretty decent. It's a decent quality zipper. It works fine. All right, let me fix my microphone. Not too bad. Now moving on to the lacing system. Now, pretty good lacing system. Very basic. The strings themselves are pretty good. They're all closed hooks. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pairs of hooks. However, one thing I wanted to point out, and it's a really weird thing. Okay, 3 pairs of closed hooks, 4 pairs of closed hooks, and 1 pair in between of open hooks. Why? I have absolutely no idea. It's not like you can skip, well, you can skip it. It's going to be a little bit weird, but you can skip it. I don't know what's the purpose of this. Maybe there is. I don't know. If you guys know, please let me know. Normally, when you have open hooks, they are on the top, usually, either the whole top row from here up, or just a couple of them up here. Very common in hiking boots because you want to quickly release the tension. In the middle, just 1 open hook. Unless you just want to skip this part and not tighten that part here. Maybe, but not sure. Anyway, it doesn't seem like a big deal because it's actually lock, kind of like a lock. It's not that easy to take it out there, so it's not going to be, by accident, you're not going to take it out. Just for your attention. Let's move on to the criteria number 4 now. Very important one is the outsole, traction and stability. Now, whenever I do my runs and my walks, I do it on a variety of different surfaces. I start with the older asphalt, then going to the newer tarmac, then dry sand, wet sand, dry grass, wet grass, rocky road, trail surface, concrete, rubber, marble and tile, and I also have now a rock wall in my house, so I test that on the rock wall as well. Overall, ironic, it's a slip resistant. This outsole is very slippery, especially on the wet grass. You're gonna be figure skating on the wet grass. Now, the only surfaces, obviously it's decent on the asphalt, on the concrete, on the rubber. On the rubber it's a little loud, keep in mind. And on the marble and tile it's pretty loud too, keep that in mind. But On a sand, it performs very well on the sand. On the wet sand, it's a little bit slippery, but on the dry sand, it performs very well. It does not dig in, nothing gets stuck in between, pretty good. But I still wish there was a little bit more aggression to kind of give you good stability on a wet grass, on something that is slippery. And I know it says slip resistant, but it's more designed for kind of like oil slip resistant on marble and tile. And honestly, this is not even that great on whenever it comes to marble and tile. It is pretty slippery. It's supposed to be these right here, these pores right here are supposed to create suction. But overall, I think it's just not enough of them, so it just does not have enough of that suction. And another thing I want to point out, I wish there was the ridges here that make it easier to climb. You know, again, if you're in service, you're training, you understand how important it is climbing up the rope. Okay, not gonna be very good for climbing the rope. Keep that in mind. Another thing, one final thing that I kind of wanted to bring to Bates' attention, if anybody watching from Bates, I doubt it, but if they are, this rubber overall that you guys are using on the outsole, on the main outsole, not the EVA, not in the between, but the main outsole is a little too soft. You see, I can bend it. It's a little too soft. So that too creates that instability, especially on flat, shiny surfaces like marble and tile. So if you guys can implement a little bit of a harder rubber with more aggression, that would make it much better. Don't forget the ridges too. Let's move on to the criteria number 5 really quickly, the temperature. Now, these are not designed for winter, and because obviously there is no waterproofing, there is no insulation. Keep that in mind, these are now winter, and on snow ice, you're gonna just figure skating. But in the hot weather, they're not very breathable overall. These pores in the inner sole, they kind of help with the circulation on the inside, but I wish there were some ventilation pores on the outside as well. I mean, this is not a waterproof boot, so it's not like you would worry about water getting into them anyway, because water will be getting into them anyway, because there is no gusseting. So I recommend Bates doing 2 versions of the boot. One waterproof with decent gusseting going at least up 6 inches, with no pores, no vents, I mean. And one like this one, for example, it can be that is not waterproof with no gusseting but more pores for the ventilation. Okay, kind of like on the Denier Tachyon, just so for your reference, so you know what I mean when I talk about the vents. Check out the Denier Tachyon, not GTX version, because GTX is the waterproof version. It has those vents. Okay, let's move on to the criteria number 6 now, the sizing. Sizing, they are true to the size, but make sure you get yourself half a size bigger. This is just my recommendation for all the hiking boots, trail running shoes, combat boots, military boots, whatever. Half a size bigger so you have a little bit of extra space so that your toe is not touching the front of the toe box, because if it is, you're gonna get fatigued very quickly. You don't want that to happen. Let's move on to the criteria number 7 now, balance of application. So if this really were your ultimate survival boots, would they be good? Okay, if you are a fan of military combat boots, or if you just really need them, you're not just buying them for your survival situation, whatever, you're buying them for your service, okay? I would say look around some more. If you want lightweight, look around some more. If you want more stability in the outsole, look around some more. Overall, this is not bad. Out of all the Bates that I reviewed, this is definitely in my top 5 of Bates, only Bates boots, okay? Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Bates brand in general specifically because they advertise their boots as US Marine Corps boots, law enforcement boots, military boots. They know that that's their clientele, that people in service buy their boots. And that's exactly my problem with Bates, is because they advertise it as, you know, for people in service, but they don't deliver for people in service, all right? This is good, but it's not good enough to be in service. I'm sorry, it's just, that's it. It's just the outsole is not good enough. It's just, I mean, I wouldn't get it for anything, for hiking, for training, for military training, I wouldn't get it. Comfort level is pretty good, however, so if you are a die-hard fan of baits, if you love them, if you trust them, this is it. Comfort-wise, this is one of the best baits I reviewed so far, okay? So they are very comfortable thanks to all this cushioning, and as long as you get them in the right size. But personally, I would probably go with something else in that department. So take a look around. I reviewed a lot of boots on this channel, so I want to make sure that, you know, you have important thing to do. If you're buying these boots, you have something important to do. I want to make sure that you can, the mission is complete, all right? And I did my contribution there for you to complete that mission. And the very last criterion here is criterion number 8, the price. The price is actually very, very good, and that's one of the reasons why these boots have so many reviews. They're only 70 bucks, $69.97. Yes, the link is in the description below, the Amazon link. Now, 70 bucks is a fantastic price for the boot, for everything that these provide, the quality, great price. So obviously makes sense why people buy these boots. Is there a lot of competition in that price range? There are some decent boots from Daner, but they're more expensive. So if you want to be sticking to the budget, this is probably a really good choice. But I would recommend spending a little bit more and getting something a little bit more. That's really it. But this is definitely a fair price. This is a really good price. So price-wise, Bates, they did a great job. So overall, let me know in the comments below, guys, what do you think about this boots? What do you think about this review? If it was helpful, please consider subscribing. If you want to support me even more, you can consider supporting me through the Patreon. That's really what pays for me getting all these boots and doing all of these reviews. The more the money I make off YouTube, the more money I make from Amazon, associate, whatever, all the fees that I get, I spend them on this channel to bring you more reviews so that you guys can watch them and hopefully this be helpful to you, because honestly this I think is very important, so thank you very much, guys, for watching. I appreciate your time. Hopefully this was helpful. I will see you guys in the next video.